Welcome back to the Knick Knack Review. I am your host, Clint the Knick Knack, and today we're looking at the movie Snake Eyes. Let's get started. So Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins is, well, the origin of Snake Eyes. Wow, that really sells itself, doesn't it? This movie starts out with the young Snake Eyes, and he witnesses his father getting murdered. And from then on, the rest of the movie becomes basically a revenge plot. That's basically it. That's pretty much what sets up the entire movie for the Snake Eyes. And, I don't know. I just thought it would set up a little differently. For a movie including Snake Eyes, the pacing was a little bit off for me. There were times where, like, especially the beginning, I felt like it was very rushed. Certain cutscenes it didn't go well together. But then at one point, it kind of slowed down. I felt like it didn't know when to speed up, when to slow down, or just take its time in general. It was an origin story after all. I got to be honest, at times I found myself a little bored and a little disappointed. And to be honest, my interest of the movie didn't peak until Scarlet showed up. Spoiler warning. There are some G.I. Joes that actually show up, and when I say some G.I. Joes, it's mainly Scarlet and Baroness that show up. They really didn't bring that much to the movie, although I did like that Scarlet was in it. I mainly wanted her in it because her and Snake Eyes have a connection in both the comic books and the cartoon. So I really liked that they included her. But I felt like even though I thought she was a nice addition to the movie in general, it didn't really help the movie as a whole. The fighting and the choreography at the beginning of the movie was kind of what you would expect from any action movie. It was kind of clunky, a little shaky cam, and I gotta say, don't do the shaky cam when it comes to especially a martial arts movie. I mean, come on. G.I. Joe, regardless of what you think of the other two movies that they made with G.I. Joe, Ray Park did this character right. They filmed it right. It wasn't a lot of close-ups and zooms and all that stuff. I mean, they took their time. They kind of backed up a little bit, and you got to see what they were really capable of. And towards the end of the movie, it kind of got a little better when Snake Eyes was actually training. You kind of have that like martial arts, not montage, but that training atmosphere, and it's like, hey, don't spill the water, take the cup from me or the bowl from me without spilling water type of scenario. And it was an okay scene, but it didn't really go well from there. It didn't get better. It was just kind of like, okay, that was cool, and that was really it. I mean, I guess I expected more from a movie that, considering it's Snake Eyes, it's who it is says a lot about the film. And that part just didn't deliver for me either. I gotta say, the acting wasn't that bad. I really thought, considering everything else, it really wasn't bad. Some of the, actors maybe were not the best, but it wasn't bad. It was kind of forgettable, but it wasn't god-awful. In fact, my favorite, actually, that stood out, in my opinion, was, spoiler alert, was Storm Shadow. This guy actually did a really good job. He sounded menacing. He seemed like a villain, even though you weren't supposed to really know he was a villain unless you knew who he was ahead of time. He gave off a very powerful presence. Like when he entered the room, it was kind of like a different atmosphere. It wasn't like just a regular person walking in. He really was in charge of that scene. I gotta say though, for Snake Eyes, it never felt like Snake Eyes for me. The guy that played Snake Eyes, I didn't even bother to look at him because it wasn't Snake Eyes to me at all. For one, Snake Eyes is in the military, and he's a white dude that gets in a helicopter crash, messes up his face, that's why he conceals it, and his vocal cords get ripped out, and that's why he doesn't talk. This Snake Eyes talked a lot. In fact, he didn't know what else to do. Now, I will say this. This was a different approach from the Snake Eyes that we knew that Ray Park played in the other two movies. So yes, it was a different approach. And to be fair, it's hard to make a movie where the main protagonist does not say a single word throughout the entire movie. Not to say that it hasn't been done or it couldn't be done. It's just a really difficult thing to do. And personally, the fact that they didn't have Ray Park play this role, it just felt wrong. And look, spoiler alert, because I'm not even worried about it, Snake Eyes doesn't actually become Snake Eyes with the whole suit until the end of the movie. Literally. You get, 5 seconds of him in the suit? That's it. That's all you get. And he went by the name Snake Eyes. Now, granted, in the comic books, cartoon, you didn't know his real name. You didn't know where he was from. You didn't know a lot of things because, for one, it was never told. And then when you actually see him as a Joe, it's all classified. So even if the Joes actually knew all the information that we were wondering, it's classified. So technically, they should not have made this movie because there are so many questions that you want answered that won't get answered. Yes, you get to see Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes younger and where the rivalry started, kind of like a Sub-Zero Scorpion. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But you see where that started. Other than that, you don't get his real name. You get his real voice and what he may look like under the mask, but they didn't even get that right. I had really high hopes for this movie, and it really came crashing and burning because Snake Eyes has been one of my favorite characters in all media ever since I was a kid. I grew up with G.I. Joe. I grew up with all the older shows, and to see after two movies where he was represented fairly well, I'm not going to say perfect, it was definitely not perfect, but while he was represented very well, this movie just kind of destroyed the image he once had. That faithful image, whether it be comic book, cartoon, doesn't matter, the Snake Eyes we know and love was not in the movie. Honestly, what is stopping him from taking his mask off and talking once he goes on another mission? That's all supposed to have been done by now, but they didn't do that. Honestly, I wouldn't even call this movie Snake Eyes because it wasn't Snake Eyes. It felt like a completely different movie, and some dude just called himself Snake Eyes, and that was really disappointing for me because, again, he's one of my favorite characters of all time, and he really deserved a lot better. Honestly, I'd give this movie a rating of wait till home media, but I don't know. Maybe you can just wait till it comes out on regular cable and watch it then. I would describe this movie as a fun, forgettable flop. And the only reason I say fun is because they have some car chases and some action and some, like some of those elements that some people may actually enjoy. But all in all, is the story and everything, it's just, I don't know, it's barely worth mentioning. That about does it for this one. It was a nice short review, unfortunately not the nicest. If you like what you've seen here, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Maybe you had a different outlook than I did. Maybe you enjoyed it a whole lot more than what the original Snake Eyes is supposed to be. Oh, and while you're there, don't forget to... Well, you know what to do. As always, I am Clint the Knick-Knack, and I will see you on the next one.